Today I'm going to share how I color grade my sports videos in Davinci Resolve. Let's get right into it. So the very first step is to come to your timeline, and we're going to right click on it, go to timeline, timeline settings, and then color. You want to make sure the timeline color space is Rec 709A, and then the output color space is also Rec 709A. And basically this is important because if we don't do this, our colors are not going to look exactly like they did on my computer when I export it to my phone. And then since most of my work is shared on social media, I need these colors to be exactly the same. There's no point in fine-tuning all these color grades if the export is just going to ruin it. I found that Rec 709A works perfectly, especially since I'm using a MacBook. So if you don't have an Apple computer, you might have to do something different here. So now that we've done that, hit the color tab, and as you can see, there are no nodes currently set up. So what we're going to do is hit Option S twice to bring up 2 nodes, and this is going to be our color space transform. So as we can see, this clip is clearly in log still, and we need to get that into a color space that we're going to work in. So we're going to come up here to effects, actually type in color, and then drag color space transform to this. And so you need to know what camera you used, obviously. So I used the Canon C70 and shot in C-Log 2. So I'm going to come here and go to Canon Cinema Gamut, and then my input gamma is going to be Canon Log 2. What I'm actually going to do here is take the output color space and go to Davinci Wide Gamut, and then the output gamma is going to be Davinci Intermediate. The reason for this is to give us a wider color space to work in while we're color grading. If I were to transform this to Rec 709 right now at the beginning and then try to color grade in that, I would not have as much room to push the highlights and the shadows and the color. Working in Davinci Wide Gamut gives us so much more room to maneuver these colors and the highlights and the shadows, and then we will convert it to Rec 709 at the end. So that's what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab this color space transform, drag it onto the second node, take Davinci Wide Gamut, take Davinci Intermediate, and then keep this on use timeline, which is the Rec 709A. So now that we have these two, I'm going to close that, rename this CST for color space transform, and then the real work will be done in between. So I'm going to add 5 nodes to start, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is really where we're going to be color grading. So I'm going to name this one exposure, balance, contrast, saturation, and then I'm going to right click on this and hit add outside node, and we'll get to that in a second. But so our very first step is to work on exposure. It's looking a little dark to me. I'm going to bring up the overall exposure with offset a little bit, and then I'm going to bring the gain up, which is bringing up basically the highlights, and then I'm going to bring the lift down to right around there. That's looking pretty good. Maybe bring this gain up a little bit more, bring up the gamma. I'm kind of just messing around, doing very small adjustments, seeing what looks good to me. And right around there is looking pretty good to me right now. So now what I'm going to do is come to balance. And so this is going to be the white balance. And I got a pretty good white balance in camera. I might, if anything, make it like a tad warmer, but it honestly doesn't need much. However, what I am going to do is I noticed that these shadows are very pink and magenta. So what I'm going to do is come down to lift and take out some of that red. So you can see how much of a difference that made. It's affecting his skin tone, so I'm going to come back to gain, and I'm going to add in a little bit more of that. But you can see that's kind of just creating a lot more of a cinematic orange and teal look. I didn't really like the look of the pink shadows, so we're going to come back to this, but that's looking pretty good right now. Contrast, I definitely want to up this. I'm liking it right around there. Mess with the pivot, which is basically the point of contrast. I'm liking that right there. And then saturation, up that a little bit. Nothing crazy, but let's see what we've done so far. So if we disable all of these, that's log. And then we enable these, that's Rec 709. Oops, that's Rec 709. And then this has been our color grading adjustments. So that's pretty much looking good right now. But the real magic can happen in these two nodes. So what I'm going to do here is come to this mask page and then click circle. And then I'm going to make this circular node around him. And then I'm going to increase the softness a good amount. And then basically what this is going to do is any change I make in this node is going to be affecting inside of this mask. And then any change I make to this node is going to be affecting outside of the mask. So I'm actually going to come to the second one first, and I'm going to bring down the lift and the gamma. And then I actually want to come back here and increase this softness. This is creating more of a vignette because I really want the focus of this video to be on the character in the middle, obviously. So I want to bring down the exposure on the sides. You can see that's doing a lot. The other thing I'm going to do is come to the blur and increase that just a little bit because again, I want this focus to be on the center. So as you can see, those two things are really drawing your eye to the middle. And then I'm going to come back to this other node and mess around with the exposure. So I'm going to bring the gain up a little bit. Gamma. I'm going to increase the contrast. And then what I'm actually going to do is come to mid detail. And this is basically a sharpness texture kind of thing. Especially on phones, I found that increasing this just kind of makes it pop a little bit more. So we're going to mess with this. I'm kind of liking it right there. So let's see what these two are doing together. It's looking pretty warm. I want to bring that a little bit cooler. And then I actually want to increase this contrast more. And then up that mid detail. I just think that looks a lot better. And then if I come to balance, I'm gonna add some more blue in those shadows. I think that's looking a lot better. Because let's look at the base. Let's look at the base grade. So that's just the conversion, and then that's looking very good in my opinion. So we're gonna take this, Command C, and we'll copy this to another clip. And you can see that's pretty aggressive there. So let's lower this contrast a bit. I'm gonna take the mask, expand that out over him, and then I'm going to come to the exposure, and I want to bring up the total exposure a little bit. Bring down the gain maybe. And then it's actually looking a little magenta again. So I'm gonna add a tad of green, warm it up a little bit, and add a little saturation. I think that's looking pretty good. So once we do that first grade, there's not a lot you need to do on the others, especially if you're gonna make a match. Let's just take this one more time, Command C, we'll find another clip. Let's throw that on this one. So this looks a little wonky, but we'll come here, take the mask, put it over his face specifically. And there's not much we gotta do here. So that's the Rec. 709 conversion, and this is the grade. This is really just personal preference at this point. Basically, I just do that, copy it across each clip, make minor adjustments as I need, and then let me show you exporting real quick. So hit O for an out point, and we'll come to the deliver page. And all you need to do, because we have the timeline set up as Rec. 709A, all you need to do is make sure this says same as project, and when you export it, the colors will be exactly the same as you see on your computer. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that tutorial helped. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and stay tuned for more videos coming soon.